I actually don't know how I'm going to introduce our next guest. I could call him an actor. I could call him a rugby player, a basketball player. I'm not going to call him any of those. I'm just going to call him my friend. And I think by the end of this, he'll be your friend as well. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
To give people the full Danny story, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. So, born to SAS major, first Fijian in the SAS, and then adopted as a toddler. Talk to me about that.
I was adopted in 1972, passed from pillar to post, I think that's the phrase, as a young child. It's come to light now that it was under a bit of pressure back in those 70s, having a child of colour, as we say now, and adopted by most amazing white affluent family from a rural village in Worcestershire, and raised like that.
We spoke earlier before we went on camera. When did you actually find out you was Fijian? Because as you know, being in the army and playing rugby, you can't move for Fijians, right? So I've always had, certainly since I was 18, 19, I've had friends who are Fijian. I've experienced Fijian culture. I've drank kava. Like I've seen the.
I'm surprised you even remember that.
No, there's bits of it. I've had to experience trying to break up Fijians fighting after drinking kava.
Give up.
Yeah, run is the way that you do that.
Sorry, they don't even fight each other. They fight each other, don't they? They don't fight anybody else.
Yeah. So I've always had sort of, and obviously playing rugby, you know, such a probably. For me, more so than New Zealand in terms of a rugby playing culture is Fiji. And anyone that I've spoken to about Fiji said that the way five-a-side pitches are over here with people playing five-a-side football is Fiji is just people playing rugby.
Yeah,
Barefoot.
touch.
Yeah, touch, which is where that flair Fijian style comes
one
from.
touch. Literally, it's turnover if you get touched. So these guys are throwing the ball around like it's a hot potato.
Yeah. So I've always had sort of a strong idea of what Fijian and Fijian culture is. I can't imagine in 1972 in Worcester, in a rural village, one, there was any other Fijian anything, let alone references or people. And what was that like growing up? And when did you even know you was Fijian?
Jokingly enough, I was the only coloured in the village. And in my school, which, as we talked about, the racism and the bullying came in then as well. But in the mid-90s, we had to apply for a passport. And way before you, we used to have one-year passports that was a bit of card with a stamp in, like a meal book. And you could get it from the post office, and you'd have to take your passport photograph that you get done from Woolies, and then you'd stick it in there, and they'd stamp it, seal it, and that. So it was just changing. So I had to get a new passport ready for my basketball career. So I had spoken to my biological mum, even though my adopted parents didn't know either. And I said, where are you from? Where am I from, sorry? And she said, you're Fiji. And I'm like, what? What, them men who run around with the ball in one hand? And literally, in a room full of lads, on a speakerphone, they all went, that's why he runs sideways all his career. Doesn't run forward, runs around with the ball in one hand. Literally, everyone just went, that's why. And they said, from Fiji. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, your father was an officer in the SAS. His name was Illy. That's all. And that's the adoption came. We hear so many stories regarding that, which we can talk about later. But it just made sense of I was playing, and even guys were like, "That's also makes sense why he plays every sport. He's not a master. He is a jack of all trades, just good at everything he did." And that was it.
Was there a recognition in you at that moment that did it make sense? I mean, other people saying it makes sense, but did it make sense to you?
Yeah, because I was lighter than the other black kids in the village, or not in the village, in any sport. I thought it was black, or I thought it was mixed race of Mediterranean origin, because I spent most of my childhood in the Med Canaries, stuff like that, growing up, travelling, because my parents. Used to be told I was Stan Collymore when I was playing football, and I was like, who? And seriously, a little slimmer, and I'll show the photographs, you'd be like, yeah, he does. Even got punched because they thought I was Stan Collymore. So, but until I stood up, it changed quickly, very quickly. But no, it was, the whole thing was just, wow. But I was in world of basketball then. I wasn't playing rugby. I'd hate rugby. I had enough. So Fiji was never recognised as a basketball nation.
How old was you when you found that out?
25, 26.
Wow.
I just knew I was a man of colour. I sorry, I have to keep saying that, isn't it politically correct?
Doesn't matter if that's what you thought. That's what you thought.
My mum used to call me the young boy that she got off the reduced to clear rack. Seriously. She said, Safeway. See, that's how old it was. We found you on the reduced to clear rack, or nearly burnt.
What does that do to an identity of someone? Because navigating the teenage years without having that sort of identity on who you are, what does that do to you?
Puts you at a crossroads. I think the best example, if you fast forward the years just prior to lockdown, the Black Lives Matter, people are going to me, you coming down? You coming down? Coming down for what? Oh, I said, but you're coloured. And I said, I was brought up right, not white. And they're like, well, and then you flip back to the way I was educated, that my mum had run a children's home for boys, and my dad had been British Army and very successful engineer, horticulture, agriculture, and I was raised by a white family. So my identity regularly was curly hair. I'd be a footballer. I'd be Kevin Keegan one day. I'd be Cyril Regis another. I'd be Bodie and Doyle, bit mixture of those. Poncherello, if it was chips. That was the only identity because nobody ever heard of Fiji. So it was hard with the racism side because I was only talking about it the other day that I'd have to leave school 15 minutes before anybody else because they'd be waiting for me at the school gate. And I had to leave 15 minutes and get on the bus to go home because I was the only coloured kid at school. And so I didn't understand racism. I didn't understand why they're putting cigarettes on my face, stamping, kicking me, punching me. If I reacted, why was I getting pulled into the school head? Aren't you just going to tell the... And it was school playground banter. So understanding the Fijian thing didn't exist. I was just a black kid. And this is funny. I was called. My mum even called me. Oh, you're a bit of a sucker for me. It's chickaboo. I'm like, oh, what? Chickaboo? And just find out, wow. But she meant nothing. No, she says I'm a little cuddly ball of brown.
Wow. And what does that do to you when you find out you're Fijian? Is there a pull to Fijian heritage? Is there a pull to learn? Is there a pull to I need to, meet my family that I've got over there? Yeah,
well, there was a pull. It must have been hard for my adopted parents who'd done amazing things. The discipline side. When I'd made contact with my biological mother, that was in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And that was from the old phone books. So way before they used to have Bede Lancashire, be a huge phone book.
I remember everyone's phone. Think about the privacy problems that causes, but for those who aren't aware, or old, everyone had their phone number listed.
An address.
An address, yeah.
And code, and that was it.
Crazy.
And I went through the phone book, knew what my surname was via my piece of paper, which I'd already robbed from my parents' house, of the documents of saying my biological dad was Special Forces, biological mum was a sporty woman in Hereford who'd already had 2 boys prior to me. She'd had me when she was 17, so you do the math.
Okay.
So you thinking typical woman lives near a barracks. That's what happens, young girls, soldiers, isn't it? And I looked at this surname through the phone book and I found the surname. And the first one I saw, I looked at the road, totally bluffed it. And I phoned up and said, hi, I'm sorry, is Ian or Neil there? These are the names of because these are your brothers. And she just went, oh, I'm sorry, they're not here. I'm like, all right. She said, they don't live with me anymore. And I'm like, oh. Is Linda there? And she said, no, she lives with her family and the boys live with their family. And I said, right, I'm really sorry to bother you. And I'm shaking at this moment. I'm going white. And I said, can you remember when Linda gave up this boy for adoption? She went, yes, Daniel. And I went, it's me. And the phone just went quiet. And I'm thinking, she's had a heart attack. Oh, my word. And then she hear the, and that was it. That identity there was, I sort of found my mother, and she didn't want to talk about my biological father then. And she wanted to keep me a secret from the rest of the boys, who I've since found.
At what point did you find out who your father was and make contact with him?
The passport days, it was quite funny because we were, I think it was 2000. I'd done the Quins thing. I'm with my son and his mother, and we're trying to sort stuff out. Having
By
our
the way,
own.
I'm not letting you just skip over that. When he says I'd done the Quins thing, that means I was a professional rugby player. But we'll get back to that.
Yeah. So I'd done the travel, and I had a phone call, and it was a national paper, and they're saying, "Have you got any comments?" I'm like, "Comments on what? Have you got any comments?" And I had no idea what they were on about. So basically, there had been a military coup in Fiji. I'd never even spoken to anybody from Fiji. I'd met one or two Fijians in my rugby career.
Yeah, playing rugby.
And I didn't know my surname. So I'm Fijian, my dad's, and that was it.
So you're, as far as everyone's aware, you're Danny Badham at this point.
Yeah, that name. And he phoned up and explained that there's a military coup in Fiji. And I believe you're his son. I'm like, whose son? This guy. So then there was a fax, I think. A fax. Remember those days? Fax. I didn't have a fax number, but I think I had access one, so I quickly connected it up to and they phoned it through, and you press the button, and they sent a fax through of a copy, ex-SAS colonel responsible for a military coup in Fiji. That was the first I'd heard. His name was Ligairi, known as Mr. White. I knew nothing. Literally, like, wow, I knew he was Fijian, and that was it. So the next thing we did was I was in a sports centre in Worcestershire doing sport, looking, and this guy walks in. He's wearing Ron Hill tracksters, a Carrymore fleece, very softly spoken. And I went, "Hey," and he went, "Hey." You remember those days?
Fijian guy.
Yeah.
Why is that a Fijian trait, by the way? A really soft.
Because it's that.
Because I didn't. You could. That could have been anybody, couldn't it? Why did I know that was Fijian?
The eyes. It's the eyes, isn't it? It's the eyes. You know that. It's like that. You walk in and go. You're in. And I said, "Are you where are you from?" Fiji. And I was like, "I'm from Fiji." And he went, "I know who you are." And I was like, "Nobody knows who I am. I'm basketball Danny. That's it." I'd done a bit of rugby again. And he ran off, ran back out of the sports centre. An hour and a half later, he comes back in with 3 old men. He'd run 4 miles back to tell the uncle he was on selection for the Paris. So he was just coming in for his 6 weeks training before he joins Paris. Pegasus thing. So he was there training, and they came in with these old guys. And literally, it was 3 Fijian blokes, reminded me of the Muppets, 2 old blokes. And they're like, "We know who you are." I'm like, "Who am I?" "You're the Howson. You even look like him." And I had a bit of hair at the time. Not like now and not during the seasons of rugby. "We know you are." And they were like, "Oh, you look like him." I'm like, "Look like who?" So we said, "We need to come." So I went back to the house about a week later. And I'm sat down, there's a wicker mat on the floor. And there's this wooden bowl with dirty dishwater in. So this is a ceremonial thing you have to drink. And I'm thinking, have they just washed the trowels and the garden tools here?
And it's been the first time you've had that as well.
Yeah. And I was like,
You're in for a treat.
I was like, why is my mouth going blah, blah, blah? And then they brought this old guy, came in from Hereford. Chiseled jaw, dimpled chin, big smile. And they went, "You're his son." And they told me who his dad was. They said, "We know you are. We've been looking for you for years." And I'm like, "What?" So we always knew you were around here. Someone said you were here.
In Worcester?
Yeah. And they'd been looking for me for years. And they found me. Just in the sports centre by the look. And I became very close friends with them all. Sadly, 1 or 2 have passed away now from Hereford. So never argued with them because you know how hard they were. I think A-R-D hard. But they're old. And they educated me in Fijian culture there and then. until I got told to phone this phone number, and you might find this funny, but I phoned this phone number, and my parents went in, so I'm like using the house phone, and I'm like, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's Fiji. I'm phoning Fiji. Just imagine the phone bill back then. And you can hear gunshots and screaming and shouting.
Oh, because there's a coup on.
Yeah, and I phoned my dad in Parliament. My father, I have to call him my father. I phoned him in Parliament while the coup's going on. And he's going, no, you're not mine, you've got to be Jack's. I'm like, who's Jack? And basically, that's what they'd all been up to, typical army barracks thing. And then they were like, no, he's yours. He looks like you. And then he said, I said, I was Linda's. And he was like, wow. And that's what happened. And thrown into the midst of it, within a couple of months, Rugby Sevens popped up. Where are you from? Fiji. That was like my passport, straight into any team. We've got this British-born Fijian kid. He's got a British passport. We can get him in anywhere. And played at Twickenham, bumped into the Fijians who were playing for the Penguins, played against them. And all these army boys, the one that used to be the Middlesex Sevens, like the Army Navy, they'd be the stewards, wouldn't they? And they all come up to me shaking my hand. And I'd never experienced this. This is 2000. Your dad's the Ligairi. Even the famous rugby, Thomas Castagnier, knew who my dad was. Said, oh, we know, you're a rugby player. But I'm just like, what? Totally blown away.
You're like young 20s at this sort of moment.
No. You're talking 2000. So I'm 30, you know.
Oh, right, okay. Wow, you're older than I thought, Danny, sorry.
Birthday was yesterday.
Happy birthday, mate. Where was I going with this? That's a lot to unpack at that stage of your life.
I was in the middle of playing rugby. It seemed to be the fitting thing. It was literally like, I'm on this bus. I run like a Fijian. I run around like an absolute lunatic. No idea where I'm going.
Roll it back then. So, obviously, growing up as a kid, you played basketball.
And football, yeah.
When did rugby come into it?
I hate it. Literally hated rugby. Put your head in there. What put my head in there for? 1989, I played for a local rugby league club in Worcester.
Man, that's got to be rare.
It was called Howson. That's in the original Summer League before. That's when it first started.
What year is that? 89?
89.
Oh my
Huge.
God,
Cardiff, Newcastle were in there. Gateshead, all those clubs.
Was it 2000 they resurrected it?
Properly, like yeah. Proper. The original Summer League back. And I played, went up to Woolston Rovers.
I remember Woolston.
Billy McGinty and that lot of that. So I'd never like that. Why are we all running at each other for what? We're supposed to run sideways, run away. So I played a bit of rugby league and that sort of like enjoyed it. And then I've been playing rugby sevens, hated rugby 15s, but I just wasn't of rugby stock. I could run fast, and that was the only thing that kept going out of trouble. Couldn't tackle. And I don't know why I couldn't tackle, because now people hate anyone here, and I'm 50s. But no, rugby came in there, did bits and bobs, 23s, offered a chance to go to New Zealand, turned it down, offered a chance to go to America for basketball, turned that down. And this is like 19, 20 years old. So rugby was just like a hobby. I was already started teaching then. So it was nothing. It was on my radar. I wasn't. My parents were. I was from an affluent family, but just like rugby. Hated it with a passion.
And how did you end up as a professional rugby player?
Opportunity. I was from an era of brown envelopes on a Saturday. When somebody said top try scorer gets you 30 quid, I was top try scorer. Well, I pulled it out the last minute. And that was it. And I went through that era of both. I love league. When I was dominating league because I was on the wing, but they were like, "Oh, you get in the centre."
I was going to bring that up actually. So, how tall are you?
6'3", 6'4". As you get older,
You're not. You're way bigger than that.
No, I'm not. But you got to look at Ryan. Well, it's not Ryan Horn bigger than him, and he's massive. And then you got who's the one who was always fighting for Leeds? Ryan
Hall? No,
not Ryan Hall. The centre always fighting everybody at Leeds. Remember back in the day?
Oh, Keith Senior.
No, he's bigger. He's 6'4" with a 7-inch
Morley.
head. No, there's a rugby league guy who is tall. They're all 6'3", 6'4".
JJ Buchanan or Chev Walker?
Well, they're tiny. Those two.
They're not.
Chev's my height.
Right, yeah. Chef folded me up when I was 16.
Origami too. Yeah, so those guys. But this one was at Leeds, and I remember stood next to him, and he was taller than me, and he was like a slim but meathead fighting everybody.
And what did you weigh at your peak?
I ran the 100 when I was 19 stone and 11.2 on the wing.
Yeah, on the
and that was
thing, on the wing.
2005.
Yeah, on the wing. So I played loose forward, and I'm the smallest loose forward in the history of the sport.
But you had a lot of anger.
Yeah, I did.
Small man syndrome.
I'll make 6 tackles in a set of 6. That's me.
Yeah, and a couple of yellow cards.
And that's a mugs game. But I played centre a few times, and I played centre inside Danny. And I give ball Danny all day long because I ain't running it in because that's an idiot's game. Danny run it in and put a hand up to a camera.
Put your hand up there next to mine.
Come on, man.
Actually, yeah, because you stood there. I remember watching. I know we're going back to the league days. I've got the ball in one hand and the hand there, and I've literally handed up one guy and thrown the ball in the other, and you lot are all stood laughing. And this is a full-on scrap with a rugby league team.
So Danny's move is to hold the ball like an apple in one hand because he
way
can't.
Before anybody else does it now.
Yeah, it's quite common now. Yeah, so Danny's whole move was to hold the ball in one hand, and he's like a bleeding orangutan, man. He's so long in his arms. His reach must be ridiculous, right? So he holds the ball like an apple in one hand, and then you get one of them to the face and sits you down.
Which we could do back then.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. Which means that you don't get anywhere near him, so it's easy to see why you got loads and loads of tries. But also, if you run off him, one out the corner,
which was way before anybody else did it. Pass properly, you were like, no, just run off him. That Fijian attitude and that style of rugby was whatever. Somebody said to me,
it's a very sevens thing, isn't it, or nines?
Yeah, but nines, I dominated nines when I started playing that as well. But in the 90s, one of the international coaches from Worcester and players said to me, if anybody just harnessed, just let him play, I would have been straight in the international teams back then. I was scoring tries. I kept jumping ship just at the wrong time. I was like, I'm going to play basketball now. Oh, where's he gone? I went to Northampton, amazing pre-season with Northampton, although I had to run around with all the backs on their times.
Yeah,
and I'm a big bloke. When Lomu came out,
well, you look like a prop.
Yeah, well, now, but then I was still tall, 6'3". But what I'm saying is that back then, those ways of training people were running around fields. And I'm like, just give the person a ball and he'll run all day. Ben Ryan proved it with the Olympic team. He said their time to the Fijians was horrendous when they did the testing. Then you put a ball on them, the GPS monitor, they ran Olympic marathon times and they were still running. So no, that Fijian thing, I think it is. It's not a lazy thing. It's just inherent what we have.
So you mentioned basketball there as well. Obviously, we didn't even get to the bottom of how you ended up playing at Harlequins.
I just remember that I'd seen somebody being given a chance, basically because it was the Rugby Sevens. So I just said, look, this is how good I am. And I had to prove how good I was. And they came to watch me. Then they put me on a treadmill to run for 7 minutes, which was all right. But I was down at Aldershot. So then they sent me around the track as well. That's when they were based at Aldershot. So everything was there, climbed this frame car. They gave me a shot, but I also played that and then played the 15s, a couple of 15s games, scored in every appearance. And the fondest memory was playing for Quins against, and you can see this in the internet, still there. But had a Welsh international, had his testimonial weekend all day, and we were playing us just before the European Cup. And I score on my opening try off from the other wing. But it was against this Welsh team called Pontypridd. First time I'd ever encountered Welsh hospitality. So basically I got told, get this ball off him, who happened to be an England fly half, run round there and run straight at their back row. Little did I know, this back row guy was looking like Billy from Predator. His name was Dale McIntosh, who is a guy bigger than me, head like stone, and I ran into him and I nearly got folded, but I literally crumbled. But this standard of rugby, as soon as I hit the deck, they were in, all the boys were in. The ball was recycled. I'm getting up going, wow. and then I scored under the post from my side of the wing on the other side, and it even says speedy winger. So I've kept that. That's screenshotted. Speedy winger for Danny, scored the winner try, but I got canned. So basically, they had these tea huts, buildings overlooking the pitch, Welsh working class background sort of thing. People are throwing their cans at me because I just scored into the try. But I did do that stupid thing. Because I didn't know, it's not rugby ethic, is it? It's not a thing. But I was having a laugh. And that was it. And Quins did it. And then the biggest problem was the amount of money to keep me there. And they only had one team. It was going to be a football. So I went to a Welsh club. And then I was like, I hated it. And then Quins just said, look, we'll give you all the blessings, but you'll always be a Quinn. That's where that phrase came from, once a Quinn, always a Quinn, which then was recognised in 2016 for the 150th anniversary, and I was one of the first on their list to get back and run a mock amongst all the ex-stars. So no, that's the Quins thing, and the league thing came after that as well. So Rochdale Hornets,
yep.
Widnes, which I don't know why I went to Widnes, but then I played in the summer leagues, conferences, Chepton trophies and all that, and then met you guys.
Mm. And in the middle of all this, playing professional basketball as well?
In between playing, I not retired, but I started playing. I did a bit for Manchester, did a bit for Birmingham-based clubs. I love the game. When it gets cold, you play sport indoors, don't you?
That's a good point. When you're growing up then, what did sport mean to you then, playing up? Was it just a play? Was it a proving ground, or was it belonging? Everything?
I think the belonging came into it. I think we knew nothing of mental health then, but my days were structured, and people say to me, "Oh, coming out tomorrow, it's Saturday." No, Saturday is my day. Mm. It's been for my life for whatever 40 some odd years. So it was. I think it's a belonging. Mental health wise, you'd say it was a belonging there. It was something. Your friends now are all teammates. Like I said, the emotional thing about seeing you again, it's a teammate thing. You know why. You appreciate people with that person. You are in that trench. You are in that foxhole. You are on that pitch with that person. And it is a sense of belonging, because sport gives every person a chance and every chance to be part of something.
Yeah, I think when you've played a sport with someone and you've gone deep, especially the combat sports, and I put rugby as a combat sport, to be honest with you, because it is. I think once you've played combat sports with people, you are bonded. I think you know what that person's all about.
I mean, if you go for your social medias, as I said to you earlier, that I could probably link, everyone can say, I've got how many thousands of friends? It's sport. When you've played sport all over the world and all over the country, it starts with a country, then it goes to another country, then you meet them, then you meet other people. Suddenly, was it 5,500, 6,000 friends? 90% of sport. Your family aren't on there.
Yeah. What's your proudest moment in sport? Because I'm sure there's a lot to choose from. You could probably even do one in each sport.
I think an emotional one would be 2002, Father's Day, Saturday, Sunday weekend. It was the opening of the Commonwealth Games legacy thing, so they had loads of events going on all over the country. I just started working for England Rugby, and we were doing the 2002 Commonwealth Games launch for the kids at Wigan Park, I think. I can't remember what the area is called. The sports area. So it's a massive day of sport.
Robin Park.
Yeah. And England were playing football. Rio scored that day.
All right.
It was that game, so it was on in Big Stream was on. I think it was a World Cup Seoul.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, was it Korea?
2002.
Yep. So it was Father's Day weekend. So I was about to start work. My partner had just come back from her holiday, so it was early hours of the morning. And gone to bed, went to sleep. It's like 5 a.m, and then the phone rang, and I'm about to start work in 5 hours' time. Picked her up from the airport, and it was my mother to tell me that my dad had died, my English dad. So I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, not laugh or cry, but you know what I mean? Just didn't know how to react. My partner had not lost any family, so she couldn't comprehend. And then I phoned up work, and I said, I'll come in. They said, no, we've just heard your dad's died. And I said, I'll come in. Because I know my dad would have said, and you know what dads are like, get in there. Get up, stop. And then the next minute, my phone rang again to invite me to join the Fiji team for the Commonwealth Games. All in a day, 24 hours. Watching Rio score, I think it was that game, don't know who they played. Working for England Rugby. Losing my father, Father's Day weekend. And then being asked to join Fiji as possible reserve for the Commonwealth Games. That would be my moment of meaning, I think, more than point. And that's what happens. That would probably more than anything else.
You think sport teaches you more about winning or losing?
Lessons learned, losses, learn from losing. I never take a loss now. That's a lesson. And I've had to work people to understand that. Take the fear out of losing, and then you'll get amazing things out of people. Too much is based on statistics, massively, and you know that. We talked about on social media. We're, got to get this, got to get that. Actually, no. You can't grow unless you lose.
I think there's a lot in the effort and the try and the attempt.
Yeah, so a big thing I work on is, as a coach or as a mentor, as a player, we can provide people with those skills. And then I can give you the opportunity to use those skills. And that then becomes accountability, doesn't it? If you don't use those skills that I've given you, you have to be accountable for not reaching it. So it's taught me a lot about losing.
What habits or self-talk or discipline from being an athlete are you still using today? Although I know you still play.
Do as I say, not as I do. I do that. I really tell everybody else in every sport, and those lessons learned are, do all the easy things 150% better. Not the hard things, do the easy things. Then you come back with, yeah, I've done it. You can't take away results. You're not in charge, but you contribute. You can, and it's that fear of failure. That's what I always tell people. That's the biggest lesson.
I think in sport, at the very, very, very highest levels, the very, very best athletes and competitors are only doing the basics, but they're doing them to a better degree than anybody else. I think people can focus on the fancy or the non-needle moving things, whereas actually it's the basics. That's always going to.
So this is really weird. So you switch that back to what I've done. I've worked with the SAS for the last how many years, but then closely for the last 4 or 5 years, right? Do the simple things right. Always do the simple things. Military, do the simple things. They always say that about the Americans and the British. British don't have to have all that. They must do the simple things right and correctly to achieve anything. Once you've achieved that, you can then build on that.
Yeah, you can't do anything without the basics. But I think that in sport, that's you watch the highest level Premier League match. There's no time for your tricks and juggling and things like that. They're just passing it and moving it and passing it and moving it. And, in preparation for that, am I going to go and do all of the fancy things to build a physique that can tolerate playing rugby at the highest level? No, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my squats and I'm going to do my deadlifts. That's the number one needle moving thing.
And they've identified that hugely through people's bodies. And now that is, if you're going to deadlift simple. Don't be trying to get PBs and stuff like that, because you're not going to be an Olympic lifter. You probably want to learn to keep walking by the time you're 60, not be crippled over. If you look at all the runners are all thin. They're all curved over when they're 60 and they're still running. The hearts aren't run by having cardio. The heart's pumped by muscle. You know what I mean? Keep the simple. That was it. The old phrase, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Keep everything simple.
You've coached players that have gone on and been international, and I know that coaching is probably what fires you up every day at the moment.
Mentoring, I think, more than anything, because of the unique background of what I have. And I've started to learn to tolerate the criticism, so just laugh it off and say, well, I can make one lad achieve his goal or his dream. That's my job done. But when you've got the likes of people like Alex Cuthbert, British and Irish Lions, I mentored him. He had an agent. He had £1 million price tag. He scored all those tries for the British Irish Lions, tries for Wales, and they won the Six Nations. People forget that he was in the third team at his college, not wanted. And he fast-tracked into the rugby scene when I was mentoring him. When Wales failed this World Cup game, I think it's 2015, he was left to roast. He was in the horrible place. People were sending him nooses to hang himself with. His parents phoned me from the stadium and said, this is just after the South African loss, I don't know what to do, Danny. I don't know what to do. He sat there, just sat on his own. Nobody's talking to him. And I just think that's what sport's like. It's horrible. Make a judge. That's why he left and went to play in Exeter. He quit playing national professional rugby. Just go and play well. Played for English Premiership. Why were they not contacting his agent? Why were they not contacting his manager? Why? Because he'd had all that trust in me. And something that came out during the British and Irish Alliance tour, which he may actually be happy to hear that I found out. He sat around with all the Irish internationals and all the British England internationals. And one of the guys asked him, so what made you become who you are? And I've got some major sponsors out in Australia sat there going, Cathy spoke about this. I met this guy, unit, absolutely could run like the wind. And he helped me all the way through my career. And it literally brought a tear to my eye when I got told he'd been talking about me on a podcast in front of big-time celebrities saying, no, I had those achievements, but this one guy stuck with me all the way through.
What did you do with him?
Just mentored him. Just put on his thing. Had no boots. I bought him boots. I didn't have lots of money. I just felt that the way that I was raised and given a great, amazing opportunity that I should probably share it.
Do you know what? I have an order that I would like to go in this.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter. It's me. The order's wrong on this. The next section I've got is about coaching and mentoring, and I'm gonna jump that section.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that section in a second. So I know that you've said some stuff that I'm going to read back out to you here. This is where my heart is, to help children through coaching skills and knowledge. Whatever happens, I have to keep coaching rugby because that's what I love. Talk to me about that.
I was never the last one picked, but I was always the first one picked on. Make sense? Played sport all the time. Great TV film came out in the 80s called Soul Man. And it's Matthew C. Thomas Howell, and he has to get into medical college, and he can't get the money. So he dyes himself brown. But he turns up, and they pick him for every sports team, and he's like the worst player.
That's not getting made in 2025.
But it's hilarious. And he even curls his hair. He has an afro, puts Soul Glow in it. And it's hilarious. But that was what it was like. Judgment. You can run fast, play football. You're a big lad, go in the forwards. Nobody actually went, oh, he can run fast, put him on the wing. I believe that opportunity is there for every child. Yeah, I was adopted. I was given opportunity. I became on TV. I used that platform to provide opportunity. And to find those stories of why that's in me is quite an emotional one. So when we went to Fiji to meet my father, I found out that he used to skive school to swim in the harbour to find all the metal from World War II, to take to the scrap metals to pay so he can go to school and pay for the children. My biological grandfather used to raise all the homeless children, orphans, in Fiji. He was 6'7", lived to 104. So I'm hoping I'm on a good one here. I know my son's taller than me. But what I'm saying is he was given back constantly. And my dad did that. Sorry, my father. I could get this all right.
I mean, your dad did as well, let's be real.
Yeah, both fathers, yeah. So I called dad and father, yeah. And then the stories I hear about those about opportunity and embracing life and being that good person. As much as people can be that critical side, I have got a heart and I have got a reason why. So when my dad was in the Special Forces, again, father was in the Special Forces, he'd send home his wage to pay for the homeless kids and the orphan children in Fiji. So I'm thinking that's why I'm a giver and try and do these things. Then there's a great story about my adopted mum, Annie, amazing woman, tiny. I literally used to tap her on the head when I was at school. give her a kiss, even though I was 15, 16, all the boys wouldn't kiss their mum. I'd give my mum a kiss. She'd be there. I can give you photographs. It's amazing when of her screaming and shouting at sports day.
I saw this one.
And then,
my phone's in there.
And there's a great one of her screaming. And then there's another thing of we're all in the sports day at district sports. I'm the only coloured kid in the lineup. And they're going, where's your mum? Where's your mum? There, screaming. And they're looking up and down the line. What do you think they're looking for?
Yeah, a dark-skinned woman.
Yeah. You got this little, go on, Danielle, stop looking and stop talking. So this amazing woman, and I noted her in an article with the Telegraph. She was my hero. Absolutely. If she'd been at rugby with us, she'd been telling your dad shut up. She would have taken you home. She would have fed you. She would have made sure you were comfortable. If there was situations with family, she would have made sure she was that person. She was there. If she'd been alive, she would have been up in Manchester with us. She was on This Is Your Life, mate. The original This Is Your Life in the 60s. Black and white with Eamon Andrews, with the Red Book. Because she ran a children's home. A boys' home. So she was already doing that. This is why I am who I am. She was on a train in 1938, 39. 39, with a gas mask box. She was an evacuee from London. Shipped out at 4 years old to Kettering. So this challenge, when I turn around and feel, got all this hard work. She's 4. She's shipped off as an evacuee. So the way I look at it about this opportunity and giving back and the way I'm coaching and mentoring, I think it's always going to be there, whether I like it or not. I'm coaching now for free. I'm doing this for free. Can I really afford to do it? No. But I know that play it forward line comes in. I'm doing good things. And I survive. And lucky enough, I've got amazing people around me to go, you could be paying yourself more. And I'm like, why? Because I'm taking it away from an opportunity for another child. As I said to you, I've got footballers, I've got rugby players that have got amazing talent, but nobody's looking at them because they haven't found them, I found them. And they need that opportunity. And if I can provide that, and that's that mentoring, that's that coaching, and I think I'll always do that. I mean, lucky enough, I was a PE teacher before all this happened. Could I go back into teaching? Probably, but I'd probably be sacked within 40 hours, be telling the head he's doing a terrible job of being a teacher. And then PE teacher. But it's that opportunity is more important, teaching children and coaching.
You've obviously coached right away across the world. Do you think your sort of dual heritage that you've got helps you connect when you're doing that?
Went to South Africa, told to leave by 6 o'clock because you're in the murder capital of South Africa. 9 o'clock, I'm having a pint of cider with the gang leaders and the community leaders. I think I got away with a bit of tyre burning. We need to leave. You're not Ross Kemp and you've got no body armour on. Let's have a pint of cider. And then you drink it, and they're talking to me and the white guys with me, saying, this is not a race war here. It's a do or die thing because we don't have any money. But we don't involve the kids. If kids get caught up in it, it's just crossfire. But I'm dropping off a couple of hundred pairs of shoes, clothing and kit. And then you've got the South African captain coming up to me and saying, when I met him, I know you've been into the townships, thank you. Nobody ever goes into the townships. And we were like, I think we've just voided our insurance policies because no flak jackets, no security. And I'm in there.
Is that the power of sport, though?
Power of sport and power of what colour I was, I think. I got a big 6 foot whatever talking. I've got a softer voice than a lot of my brothers and family and mates. But communication is all about body language and the way you talk to people.
Yeah, if you walk into anywhere, let alone a township, with an aggressive posture, you'll get one back.
You learned that in the forces.
Yeah.
With the big thing about the British was people spoke to the British, and the trouble was caused by our patriotic friends from the other side, weren't they?
Often.
Most
could be.
But then I do know the fact that we used to wear patches with American patches on, just so we didn't get in trouble. Anyway, but yeah, I think the power of sport is big. It's something that I was going to do my notes.
It's a leveler, isn't it? Because people play sport, whichever sport it is, across the world. If you can come in through the sport, you're not a government agency, you're not a threat, you're just another. But
it's something that I always say to people: you can play sport, yeah. You go to uni, yeah. Go and join a sports team. You'll find your friends for life. I went twice, didn't I, to university. Went back in as a mature student, like Frank the Tank. But it is a leveler, and it opens so many doors. It doesn't matter what sport it is or group, you're accepted, and that's the fear. A lot of people have not been accepted.
What's the one moment in either coaching or mentoring that you've had where you go, this is why I do this?
I think stood in Kenya, in the Engle Road, Bartok, all the British Army boys out there. And I'm stood there and I'm handing out boots to the kids just for this event. We do an amazing thing with Barefoot where they make pockets like the women have in their wardrobes with the shoes slide in. So it's a bit like temping bowling. So they use the canvases, probably the size of your wall, and they rivet, glue, whatever, pockets, bits of material. Looks like a patchwork quilt. And each pocket are the boots, and they paint their size shoe on it. And they strap it up onto a wall fence, and that's how I do it. And they roll it all up so it's all together. Bucket to clean the shoes off. We started doing that, and I'm in the middle of this area of Kenya where all the girls have come in. They've avoided rape. They've avoided assault. Everything that could happen to a young girl happens to these girls. They'd walk 2 or 3 miles over this, 2 or 3 hours over these hills to come and see me. And she comes up to me and I said, what size feet have you got? And she went, Mr. Danny, I have size 6. Thank you for coming. And there's a great video of her saying she's truly blessed with me meeting me. I talked about this the other day in school. She took her shoes off. And I was just, didn't know where to cry, didn't know where to embrace her, I didn't know what to do. Her feet were mangled up in the end of these shoes. She was a size 8. She'd been spent the last 6 months in size 6 shoes.
She didn't know.
She had no other shoes. So I then turned around and went, right, these girls need sorting. Coached them, they need sports bras. They need help with sanitary towels. I'm being told you've got to give them silicone ones, and I'm turning around going, why? You've still got to wash it in dirty water. So how are you going to help these children? Plastics, all that. When I was there and I saw her feet, I believed I had a purpose that day. And that's, I think when Barefoot became what it was always about making sure that, again, opportunity more than anything, it wasn't about trying to give it away. This is about creating an environment that they can get work, they can enjoy life. I had an opportunity in an affluent life, still had challenges, and these children get it. That was a massive turning point for me. That Barefoot had got to Kenya. Wasn't about the tyre burning, wasn't about the gunshots and the gang wars in South Africa. This was about a young girl, 15 years old, with size 6 feet that she thought she had. She had size 8 feet, and she had no shoes. That was a turning point.
I know you used the phrase empty the tank. I might have stole it. I might use it every week. Where does it come from, and what does it mean to you?
It's something I got told when I was younger. Never empty it, never leave anything in the tank.
Because I know it used to be what you say in the dressing room, and I absolutely stole it when you did.
That was back in there. I wasn't even your coach. I was one of you lot. But you have to. We fear failure in everything we do. And for me, it's... See, what you don't understand is that period of time, you saved me that year, that rugby league year. I had an amazing relationship with a woman that I fell in love with from up here. But I just lost both parents. Yeah, this is something that she couldn't comprehend. I look back now and think of all the things I've learned about menopause and stuff like that. Maybe that's what she was going through. But she couldn't comprehend. Money was... I was in debt because I'd invested some money in a sports brand with somebody that had just disappeared. So everything's going wrong that could go wrong. I came back from Dubai. She changed the locks. I don't blame her. I talked about this on another podcast about this. She even told the police I was a threat. And I stood on the end of the drive. The police going, "Where's your money?" I went, "You stood on it." "Well, where's your car?" I was like, "I had no idea." I had nothing. I had no parents. My phone had been cut off. I didn't know all this. My brother, no, never seen him. I'd only caught up with him 7-8 years later. I stayed at a friend's house and it was in Oldham. What's it called? But anyway, I was in Oldham, and I remember getting a text message, and we know that in relationships, you dread these things, don't you? Met somebody else, done this. I'd had a drink, no rugby, didn't know what I was doing. It was raining. I was living in mate's house, a spare room. And next minute I knew, somebody grabbed my arm and said, "You all right, fella?" All right. And I'd found myself on the train tracks between Oldham and Rochdale. And that week, that month, I started speaking to Seb Rowe. I found a belonging in the rugby league team. That's why I was there all the time. Got a lift in, got the train in. No car, no nothing. Suddenly I've gone from everything to nothing. And that's that play it forward. I think if I hadn't have met the rugby team, I wouldn't have had a sense of belonging. Remember, I got a job that year as well, teaching. So I started to get myself back in my place. And I think if I hadn't have been there, I think it was done.
It's crazy, the ripples in it, and the small little moments that you don't realise they're significant at the time, maybe.
But I believe that's it. A lot of people say it's fate. I've seen a counsellor and a tarot reader, and she's never met me. And suddenly she's pulling out cards. Well, I'm pulling out the cards, and she's going, "What do you think that is?" And I was like, and she's telling me, literally, it's my journey and what I'm going to do. So I think that day of meeting you guys was meant to happen.
Have you ever have you ever not emptied the tank and regretted it? Have you ever come to a moment where you held back? Or do you not live with regret?
I don't live with regret now, because I've learned about dealing with it when you've been put in those places that you never want to be in. You do, but I look back at 2005, prior to 2006, prior to all this trouble. Was it 2006? Actually, probably 2002, 2003 as well, when a big name French team now came after me in that period of time. I said, "Look, come and play for in France," and I'm like, "Got a girlfriend, I don't want to leave." Well, what do we go there for? Now it's the biggest sporting league in the world for rugby. Nobody wants to go to England to play rugby. They want to go to France. And I had an opportunity. I think those are the biggest regrets of those. Not going to New Zealand to a 19-year-old was probably fair enough. I didn't want to travel. Going to America to study basketball was probably no, because I don't think that would have made me the person I am now.
So I've set this up nicely. I didn't even mean to. So not saying yes is a regret. But you did say yes to a chance meeting in a park. See, that looked really well rehearsed, that, didn't it?
Yeah, I did say yes, but it took me... That chance park, you'll remember, was 2012, 2013. Twice. In fact, it was 2013. Yeah, 2013.
Right, let's set the scene. Where are you? What happened? What has come over? Followed by who has come over? Because I think all of those things are important details.
It did go global after this came out. So I'm teaching, coaching again in London, Deer Park, Richmond. I'm teaching all the posh boys and all the state school boys, merge them together, loving coaching. This dog interrupts my lesson. And I walk straight up to the dog, pat it, rub it, licks my face. And the kids are all stood there going, "I don't know, what's wrong?" And they're like, "It's Tom Hardy." I'm like, "What, the England back row?" And they're like, "No, that's the other guy." And I was like, and they were calling me Dick as well at the time, the kids said, "No, you'll be Dick." And he turned around and it's Tom Hardy. And he went, "Sorry, fella, excuse me, dogs know good people." Terrible London accent, but that's what he swaggered in. Beanie, through dark style, soft shell fleece on, zipped up, boots on. And it was Tom. And he spent 40 minutes with my kids, just randomly talking to me. Then he came back again about 4 months later. He saw me on his car, sped off to his house, came back on his mountain bike with the dog. Dog recognises me, pulls up at Old Deer Park as I'm packing the kids' stuff away, and then has a full-on conversation with me about, "Mate, I know your dad is. I've done my research, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to take my number? And I'm like, what? So I had Tom's number. He goes, I'll take it. And then next minute, my mate's on social media called Instagram. I'm like, Insta what? Didn't think I even had WhatsApp at the time. He says, you're in Instagram. You're all over Instagram, in fact. And it says, Tom Hardy with his weightlifting buddy. No, I'd just been to the burger shop as well. Just a burger eating buddy. And I'm there with, can you imagine that scene of Arnie in Commando when he's walking down with the log and I've got a full-on gazebo in one arm, rucksack, sleeveless tee, compression leggings on, bright Adidas trainers. Everybody wears that stuff now. And Tom's pulling up to me and I'm stood there talking to him like this. And that was it. Exchanged numbers, knew about Mad Max, knew about everything. Kept me up. Do you want to come out?
What's the conversation? What's he coming to?
So he was doing some action films.
Right.
And he loved airsoft. And that was at that time, that's the closest you could do to practicing with weapons, isn't it? And he goes, I've got everything. Gas powered this, gas powered that. I'm like, of course you have. And that was it. We spoke, and then when I said, I'm in on this thing called Instagram, he goes, sorry, mate, that's called paparazzi. So I'm like, what? I've been papped. And then fast forward 2015, 2016. I'm going through a tough time. I'm staying at my closest friend's house. He's just been hit by a car. And I've helped him recover, doing all my training fitness-wise. And then he just decides he wants a girlfriend, and he's a year older. We've been best mates since we were like 16 years old. And he starts giving me a load of grief. So something's going on here, isn't it? And then I get a phone call. And I look at it and put it down. Get another phone call. Get a text message. Can you phone this number, please? It's a friend of Tom Hardy's. And I'm like, you're full of it. Put it back down. I go onto LinkedIn. Because I'd had LinkedIn at that time because of doing the Rugby League World Cup. Put the phone down. Be full of it. Somebody's trying to harass me here. Then I get a phone call again from somebody else to do with Ridley Scott. And I'm like, well, he doesn't know who I am. So how does that even happen? And this is what I believe at the time. And somebody else said Tom. And then actually one of the producers phones me, said, no, we're friends with Tom. He said, would you like to be in a film? We can't really tell you much about it. And I'm like, this has happened for a reason. I'm having a real hard time at home again. I'm in my hometown of Worcester. And I don't know where I'm going. And this guy's telling me I've got to go to the studios in London. Pay for my train, get there, get a hire car, pull up. Security, I'm taken to this changing room at these studios in London. And then, this is your character. You're going to play this guy. Women are coming in there to measure me up. I'm like, it's a little bit of a gig, but my name's on the door. Basically, he put me up for a film role. And it turned out to be a 8-part drama series on BBC. TABOO. Which is
pretty big, pretty good, let's be honest.
It's
really
very dark.
It's very cool.
It was, but it was, for me, it was, wow. But a hell of a journey. I learned so much about the film industry from being on that set, which is why I've been able to do so much more, not just about acting, just by doing production work, writing. Because one thing I learned off Tom was, call him Tom, there's never small actors, just small roles. I think never small roles, just small actors. So your part in there was great, and then at the rap party, he came up to me and I went to shake his hand. He went, "What are you doing, bro?" Hugs me, kissed me on the neck, said, "Mate, see you on the other side." And I didn't understand what he meant. He went, "You're in there now. You're in this world. Tom doesn't drink. This is a different world now." And that was it. It just spiraled into so many things, linked with movies, from Bond to Hobbs and Shaw, Equalizer. Clearly I was going to die most of them anyway, but I just didn't want to be the new Sean Bean to die in every scene.
Was there any hesitation, or was it just, let's see where this goes?
I think it all happened for that reason. I think the problems I was having on my own, I was single. My ex-partner and I, she lived up there, but we were still talking. And I thought, you know what, it's opportunity again. Take every opportunity, never leave anything in the tank. Something I've lived with since 2009.
Your character's what we'll call it, henchman?
I am the henchman. I've got the most kills in the film.
And it is a henchman in that as well.
Team hench,
it's a hell of a character. It's a hell of a look to it as well.
But they were going to shave my hair off.
Right.
Till I had to turn around and say to them, no, Polynesians love their hair, do your research. I'm telling Oscar winners what to do. Again, you have to know the heritage. I said, I'm a Polynesian. Those countries didn't exist then, so it was no Polynesia. It was a continent, Melanesian, Micronesia. And they were like, oh, can you go to Hawaii? Hawaii wasn't existent. It's just a set of islands. So because I'd done my research in rugby, I was able to elaborate and collaborate with stuff and ideas. So we grew the hair. So I had long hair at the time, not as long as this. And they created a wig for a top knot and the comb, which they turned into a weapon. I said, the comb would have been possibly a weapon. We're going to give you a sword. I probably used my bare hands, a club, and a knife to pick my oysters. So I'd created a character. They went, we're going to give you some boots, like sabres. And I went, Polynesians love bare feet. They respect their shoes.
Definitely would have been barefoot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So there's some amazing stories of that. So I'm telling them what to wear. And they go out and choose their clothes. I said, it'd be one set of clothes. Well, you've got to change uniform. You'd be grateful. That's what they are. And then they were like, well, do this tattoo. And I said, there's a film called Badlands, which is a really well documented TV series made about the Maoris. So if you're going to choose these tattoos, you need to use their inspiration. So we sat and did that. We sat and chose the hair and sat and did all the tattoos, and we had to do it. I used to take 4 hours to do my tattoos, mate.
I'm not surprised.
2 hours to take it off. They even made me go home in my tattoos one day. So after redoing it again. So I got on the train covered in tattoos, mate.
All the face ones as well.
Some of the face ones. I had it in my ear and blood and scar tissue on my face. But they got it right, and that was a big thing. And when I spoke to the Maori podcast, they were like, bro, you got that right. And I was like, yeah, because I had to, you had to get it right. You can't, I'm not going to be Danny Badham that's got things wrong. Oh, look at him. Because you've seen that. Oh, they failed there. The gun bounced off there. It's a rubber gun. I'm not having any of that.
Yeah,
well, one chance.
There's so many films where they do military stuff.
Have you watched it?
What?
Or things like that. Do you watch it because you're a former?
Yeah, and it takes me out of it. Like I can be enjoying something. I mean, for an example, throw it in there. Tom's latest project with Mobland.
Yeah.
They're using an SA-80 like a sniper weapon, and the scope that they've got in it. And I was really enjoying it, and then they do this, and they go, oh, fuck off.
So they bring in these. I mean, this is what got me two gigs. So here's one for you. I use this. All right. So you got that. You got the safety finger, correct? You would know. The SAS and the British invented that. The Americans didn't. Okay. So watch Rogue Heroes. They're running around doing this. What's it set in?
40s.
World War II.
Yeah.
There was no.
They probably didn't have trigger.
No, there was no trigger finger. But I posted that and I got credited. Then I also got ripped to pieces because it's about safety. But I'm like, but you have to get the realism right. So when we filmed the sizzle for the SAS thing, the SAS guys went, just please get it right. And I got it that right, which I'll show you later, that he had goosebumps.
Can we talk about that project, or is it?
Yeah. It's out there. It's on IMDb, which I love. I play my uncle's, one of my uncles.
So go on, explain to the audience.
Okay, so in 1962, 212 Fijians were brought into the British Army, part of the Commonwealth recruitment. Same sort of period as the Windrush sort of time.
Do we know what the because I've always wondered and never actually known, and I've never wondered enough to actually go and do the research. What was the mechanism or reason behind that?
Commonwealth forces. We needed to get percentage up.
Right.
The West Indies weren't joining the British Army. We had Indians, we had Sikhs, we had Gurkhas. So they went and got 200 men from Fiji, 12 nurses, and plus the 12 nurses. 7 of those guys, led by the first one, joined the SAS because Sterling had worked with them previously in Borneo. Okay, so he's like, these amazing, absolute fearless, mad brown men. I think he describes them as the crazy brown men. And loyal until they have a bit of alcohol, then you've just lost them. Haven't you?
Yeah, and then close the door and leave.
Very quickly. So they arrived in the snow.
What were these guys in Fiji? Were they Fiji Army? Were they just blokes?
Just signing up for a new life.
Wow.
So there's great stories of they're queuing up for the boat. The boat takes them to Australia. Then they fly to England via 3 stops. So literally the temperature drops all the way till they get to Farnborough, where it's storm snow. And they've never seen snow. They're in skirts and flip-flops.
I was in basic training with Fijians who snow for the first time. It's hilarious.
Because they don't know what to do they?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And even now, and you're talking the 60s, there's no Kevlar, there's no Carrymore, there's no nothing. Fleece, that doesn't even exist. They think that's just a sheep. So the great stories is that happened. I mean, one story I have found out is that we've put in the film TV series is they're sat on this plane from Australia looking at these silver wrapped packed food trays like that, wondering what it is for 5 hours because they've never ever had cooked chicken. They usually catch
probably food in metal containers.
So they're like this. So we've done all the research about that, and they didn't eat for 5 hours because they didn't know what to do. Because they're usually catching it first and then pluck it in there. 7 of them joined the SAS. One left after 3 years, because when you join the Special Forces or our Special Forces, you have a 3 year and then you leave and you return to your regiment or whatever it is. The Fijians set the bar, 21 years they served. And they've served in every major conflict since World War II. The Fijians have. From Northern Ireland, Oman, Falklands, Europe, all of them. Every major conflict, the Fijians have been at the heart of it. Even the Royals at the time had Fijian bodyguards.
So the project that you're working on at the moment is, you writing it, producing it?
I wrote it based on stuff. We were in London one night, and this 6'8" guy just staring at me, and he's like the skinny but muscly version of me, but taller. And he just went, "You're him, aren't you?" And I'm like, "What? I'm in a nightclub in Surrey." He's on the door. "You're him." And I was like, "All right." I said, as children, we're told, this is why I've used it. As children, we're told bedtime stories of heroes and legends, of some men from the tiny islands of the Pacific. "I know who your dad is, and it's an absolute honour to meet you." And I'm just like, and all the lads I'm with me are going. So then I'm like, and I kept that, and that was the overview story tagline for the Brothers of the Crown. That they tell stories about these guys, because they don't have TVs on, about these 7 guys that joined the Special Forces, became heroes and legends, that paved the way for that 3,000 to 5,000 Fijians joined the British Army.
Just like an origin story of Fijians in the British Army.
Yeah, and why they were here.
That's going to be such a cool.
Yeah, and that's it. And we're filming it black and white, and we're filming it in Fijian. First of all, it's all been put together. It's just a project's going to take longer than I ever thought. But it's amazing because that has now taught me the history about this culture. They went to Singapore in the late 60s with the SAS. There's Singapore Sevens is on. New Zealand need a game. They play the British Army, the SAS. Certain Ligairi is causing havoc, and the first game they lost was to the SAS, the New Zealand team, because they had 3 Fijians in there, 3 very, very famous rugby. And I've met the guys there. I met them. Said we had Scottish and Welsh guys, so we had lots of absolute rugby mad people, and these 3 Fijians smashing everything that moved, and scoring tries. And that was the British Army's first big win over the New Zealand team. And it was what would be TA, All Blacks, Sevens.
Outrageous.
These stories, it can go on. I mean, you could ask it any year and I'll tell you a story from that, one of those conflicts, how much research. But it's about these guys and how the character I play, Fred, was involved in Operation Barefoot 3 days before his 60th birthday. Flying that gunship in with the what was it? Like a secret operations close protection team. You know, the security, the private security company with the SAS in. They flew him in, and the story is that the SAS jumped on their chopper. The door opened, and the sergeant was like that, looked up, and went, "Boys, we're in good hands here." And there's my character, Fred, who I'm best mates with his son now. He's in Hereford now. He's CP.
So it covers a serious span then of time.
Yeah. So you've got to look at the 60s of arrival to 2000 when they did Operation Barras, when all the SAS and the Paras and Marine, everybody just attacked the West Side Boys.
Yeah, the West Side Boys in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
I think it's worth touching on one very famous sort of incident with a very famous Fijian soldier, which I think is probably surely one of the
It is because he was he was the middle one, if I remember. But it gives me goosebumps even talking about him now. That when you read,
this is Laba Laba.
Yeah. That you look at it, 7 men in a bathhouse in Oman, in a little village called Mirbat, and the communism forces have got the rebels coming in the Adu to come and take a cannon. And if you can imagine a cannon from World War II that's overlooking a fishing port that's vital to the sheikhs and the kingdoms, as they call it now, don't they, all the Arabic nations. And it's important to keep hold of it. So these 7 guys are rushing around. And the first one, literally out the door, sprinting to protect the gun, is a young Fijian called Laba Laba. And he fires this gun that takes 4 men to fire on his own, keeping them at bay on his own while they're waiting for planes to come in and rescue them and warn off the Adu. And then joined by a second Fijian who was dodging bullets, sidestepping. I mean, that's how they've described it, sidestepping bullets, 400 metres at a sprint. Uphill, rocks, bullets. You and I couldn't run 400 metres in a straight line. But they're doing it. And that's how they were. And sadly, Laba lost his life, got chinned, had his jaw strapped up, obviously got shot in the jaw, carried on firing the cannon point blank, till looking down the barrel to actually carry on firing. So he's loading it. Sorry, he's aiming it down the barrel, looking down it, loading it, put the breech, bang, reload on his own. So attack, and then he gets killed. Tak gets shot. But even when Uncle Tak got shot, and they evacuated everybody, he waited till Laba's body was taken off, and he came in with Laba and the Fijians. I believe the stories we hear is that Dad, well, my father takes it still on as a responsibility that he wasn't there. It's one of the first times they were all split up. They would never split up. So using that in the stories and that and the embassy sieges is huge.
Well, it's fascinating regimental history for the SAS, but I think it's a fascinating cultural history for the Fijians in the British Army, because I think anybody who's served understands. I think a lot of civilians probably don't really know the story of the Fijians in the British Army. I think everybody who's served has served with Fijians and knows, but I think that sort of mainstream public understanding and acknowledgement just doesn't exist.
It isn't, and that's why there's the big call for the Victoria Cross for Uncle Laba, and a couple of they've all, to be honest, they all should be.
Well, it's a pure Rorke's Drift moment, isn't it? And
that's what it was. It was our modern day Rorke's Drift. I mean, that's why a lot of the Fijians love going to the Welsh Regiment or the Scots. Don't go to the main lot. They go to the Paris. I mean, 2 qualified only last week to join the Paris, and they are great grandsons of the original legends.
Wow.
The first batch, and they're in the Paris, and they're not built like you and I when we were that age. These kids are just naturally just crazy, and they've just qualified for the Paris, which is a tough test for a lot of the military boys. But no, it's steeped in history, and that's the whole point of Brothers of the Crown.
Well, I can't wait to see that.
It's something that's going to take time. We've met with major producers, major stars, done the sizzle, which literally had these 2 massive investors going, I've got goosebumps. And you've not even put the voiceover on there, and there's no Fijians on it. It just shows them what they were like. And I said, yeah, so you can catch it. So you have to write a synopsis, you have to write an overview, and then you have to produce it. And I didn't know what this was. Now I'm writing films all over the place. Synopsis and overview, and it's creative. But the story about those guys is steeped in history.
Tell us about the first time you met your father then, and that journey.
Well, 2018. It's probably one of the most emotional moments I've had. We're flying out there, and basically I'm going to go and meet him, and it's all been organised. It's literally like a Lion King moment being presented. It's literally like coming to America. Everything I've spoken to, it was like that being that day. We've arrived. We've been met by one of the Fiji captains, and truck full of people, camera crew are there waiting for me as I get off the plane. So I've got people cuddling me, kissing me, chucking floral garlands over my head. Welcome to Fiji. I'm just like...
Is that the first time you'd been as well?
Yeah. Paid homage to Uncle Abba's statues there at the airport as well. They look very white, very very straight jaw. I was like, it's not a Fijian that, but that's his statue. And then I think it was 3 days in, jet lag destroyed me. I went off to coach as I do because I'm stupid, and I'm like that. By 8 o'clock that night, I just woke up at 8 o'clock the next day, not morning. And then we're taken to meet him. And it's his birthday, and they've arranged a party for his birthday and my arrival. So I'm meeting people that have spent all their money and food to do this party, and I'm just like, I'm there in flip-flops, baggy shorts, basketball vest, watching the Rugby Sevens, chatting to all the All Blacks lads, because I knew all of them from many years ago. And the Fijian players going, oh, you're here. I'm like, oh my God, how did everybody know I'm here? It was kept a secret. And it filtered down from the airport that he's here. I'm like, who's he? And my lads are like, see, they are coconut phones, isn't it? The jungle drums. And I met him, and I'll be able to share with you sometime the emotional photographs of him. Wow, it's breathing. I cried more because my adopted family weren't here to see this. He's crying. This is a tough man. He's a tough man. The stories I heard about, he's just tough. And he's in tears. And then we have the typical sibling rivalry about 3-4 days later, where they're not happy about the publicity, the TV interviews are going on, and I'm like, you put Starlight back on him, he doesn't need this, and it becomes a bit of a rivalry, and suddenly I'm on my own in Fiji with my team of camera crew and team of coaches. But what happened was amazing, that all the family rallied around me and just typically said, you're the big boy, you've arrived now. And they asked me what I want. I said, I don't want anything. Acceptance is all I need. And that was it. And 2020, flew out with my son and repeated it all again, which was even more emotional than I could ever believe. So we arrived, the women walked him into the village. We'd had food and drink first. That's sitting down, crossing your legs. Oh, I can't sit down anymore. Crossing my feet, carver, food, Coke. They love the Coke. I had to go and bring kerosene. I had to bring... They wanted carver plants. I'm thinking we grow it anyway, but you have to produce it, provide it, present it. They love Coca-Cola because they love it with their whiskey. All the families are there. And one of those emotional moments before we met my dad was we went into this house and they said, this is your brother's house. I said, which one? He went, the one that died. He was so proud of you. And I was just like, wow. So his name's Gabby, and he died of an illness. I don't know what the illness was. And they took me into his room. And he was older than the other two, so he was younger than me. And on the room, mate, he had pictures of me playing rugby. Any photographs, because it was MySpace back then, wasn't it? Pictures of MySpace, picture of Reese. And what Reese found emotional was Reese was there. So he saw a picture of him when Reese was 4, pinned up on his uncle's wall. Pictures of me playing for Harlequins, pictures of me playing rugby league. My younger brother kept all those mementos and died, and they kept his room as it was. Rest of the family, because Fijians are very religious, aren't they? Anyway, so we prepped, and then we were taken down. And as I said, my father knew nothing about it. His house overlooks the whole village, but he couldn't see what was going on. We were at the top. And we're walking down, and the women are singing, fans, and I'm sitting there quietly. And they take this old guy sat in a white vest on the patio or the veranda, whatever you call it, this house overlooking everything. And he gets up, sees Reese, gets up and thinks Reese is a visitor, gap year student, come to visit the village.
You get a lot of that around there.
So, seriously, they come to visit this house on the main road and the village, which is called Dad's Island, is known as the Untapped Paradise. Even the Australians want to rent the land for 100 years, and they're like, no. And as Reese is shaking hands at him, I then pop my head around the corner. Hello. And he just then bursts into tears, starts shaking, and he has bigger hands than me. Starts shaking, and I went, Reese, your grandson. And Reese is his only biological. Yes, in Fijian custom, we have granddads. I'm a grandfather to 20 kids, because it's the elders thing, chiefly thing. But Reese is his biological grandson. And the emotions are out the roof. Absolutely out the roof. He holds Reese's face, crying, fingers like this, and he's sniffing Reese to see if he's real. He's crying and he's like that, sniffing his face. And he just like, what's going on? Then he looks at me, bows his head, doesn't say much. He had a stroke a couple of years before, but he murmured and he just smiled, and then his tears come out of his eyes. And then he talks to my brother Mark, little blonde kid, looks like we've just kidnapped him, to be honest. And Mark then just goes, pours tears. And like I said, he's like, his hands are so big. His hands are so big, they're bigger than yours. And then he just cuddles me and puts his head in my chest and starts crying. That I've brought his family to him.
Does that feel like that full circle, the acceptance that you was after to you?
I think for me it was, because my brother and my sister still were hiding, didn't come out, even though a year, 2 years later, didn't come out, because it was not there. They'd been sussed. And I still don't talk to them now. But all the rest of the family messages me regularly. And it's his birthday in December this year when we fly out. So I'm taking my grandson with me. So it will be the Kenya Lion King presenting the child to the chief.
His great-grandchild.
Yeah, we're just hoping, because he's 85, hoping that he's still sort of like safe and well.
Awesome.
Mate, it's we filmed those bits as well, ready to put together as the backlog of the story for Brothers of the Crown. Because have you ever seen the film Lion? With Dev Patel, you know, the one from Slumdog.
No, I don't think I have.
It's about two boys that got on the wrong train. It came out during COVID, right? Two boys got on the wrong train and then are separated, and they're both then adopted, and then they find they're adopted into Australia by this woman who plays Nicole Kidman. It's played by Nicole Kidman. They talk about his story. Then they talk about brothers growing up wanting to source where he's come from, and then at the end of the film, remember I've already written my stuff. At the end of the film, it shows all the images of him biologically meeting his biological family, meeting his mother, how he now goes back to the village in Pakistan or India, to help do all those things. And when we watched it, we just all went, oh my God, I've just written this, but the Fijian version. And it is emotional, and it takes time. We might even just push one of them to YouTube and do a 45-minute documentary, but we filmed all those emotions. And if you wanted to capture people's minds and their attention, you have to play on those heartstrings, because other children don't know their parents, other children don't get there, and they live in the same country as them. And I've had the chance to travel to meet mine.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Fiji's not round the corner.
Try telling that to my son's school when I'm taking them out. I'm taking them all out in December to go travel. But yeah, it isn't around the corner. We didn't have social media then. We had phone calls. We had huge phone bills. Well, I was then £100 phone bill. Probably in Fiji, we used to phone the village, and they'd be like, "Wait here, I'll go and get him," because there's only one phone in the village. So you're running around 20 houses finding your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunties. Tick, 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 tick. Yeah, it isn't just around the corner, but it's planned for December this year to continue that journey.
Awesome. How do you want your kids, your players, to remember you?
I think it's, again, that word opportunity. create an identity for yourself, give them empowerments of you can do this, you can do that, and we'll go. You give yourself again. He gave me the chance. Again, we've talked about it. Provide them with the tools, the education, the support, the skills. It's down to you to apply those in life.
Do you think reconnecting with your dad and your Fijian family and heritage, do you think it's changed your identity or legacy, or has it reinforced it?
I think it's changed because I was just a little black kid playing football. Love sport. Running around. I was that person that was last in when that outside light came on. I was the first one up. I was out playing in the woods. I was out jumping BMXs off ramps and nearly killing myself, making rope slides. Not knowing that I'm playing army and knowing in the real life my biological father is abseiling. I'm doing abseiling games, zip lines, things I should have died when I'm 10. Not realising that my real dad was biological father, was doing that for real. I think it is opportunity. I think it's a journey. I think life is you take every day as your lesson and don't fear losing it because you're just learning.
I think you've had such a varied and fascinating life with so many different chapters in. What do you think is still to write?
The ending. I think it's. It sounds really wrong, but I have no fear anymore. No fear of conflict. Mental, when it can look like I'm the wrong person, that's the fear, judgment. But anything else, rugby, people in the street, that's the ending. I don't fear the ending. It's you're on a plane, things going to happen, and I don't think it's the right thing, but that's the journeys I've been on and the people I've been around of why I'm still here. As we've both discussed previously, that they influence your life. And if I can share my journey and it can help one person, then job's done. And I'm still giving on it. Whatever happens.
With all the things that you've done and all of the sort of hats you've worn and the journey that you've been on, how would you like to be remembered?
I think we put it on my
career. I just asked that now.
Yeah, but it was, I think, but we also put it in '93. They said, "What would you epitaph? What do you mean?" And I said, "You should have just listened." Wish you just did it, because I used to play every sport, and they were like, "Concentrate on this, concentrate on that." I was like, "Well," and that's been me. But now I'm able to turn around and say, "People, take every opportunity you can get offered. Never leave anything in the tank. Don't fear failure. Life is one big lesson. It's never a loss. And never give up, because you're not a quitter. If you give up and stop, then you've quit. So just don't do that."
That's a perfect place to end it, I think, Danny.
Mate, thank you for having me.
Mate, thank you for coming, and thank you to everybody that's watching this, and to you for sharing your incredibly interesting story, mate. Honestly, and I can't wait to see these projects that you're working on, where they go next. And we've not really even touched on the Barefoot Project. So wrap it up with this. Tell us about what that is and how people might be able to help with that.
Barefoot Project came about from the platform that was provided by certain Mr. Tom Hardy, using the social media at that time. During lockdown, we raised nearly 6,000 pairs of shoes to go around the country, as well as our own country, the UK. We helped the homeless. We donated 200 some odd beanies in the last 2 years to the homeless guys. They give money, give them warm clothing. We've got loads of stuff. Barefoot Project was in 3 continents, 6 countries, across all the sports. Nobody else does it. And it is opportunity over charity, because no child wants to be, you're a charitable case. And it's high profile. I mean, we go to Dubai this year, and we have the likes of the world's highest try scorer, Dan Norton, in my team. Alex Cuthbert, my Padawans, we call, are all coming back. Josh Matavesi, Fiji's fly-half. Matthew Turner, Lee Dixon, Carl Dixon, international referee. Jeff Williams, England Sevens. Morgan Newman, Springboks. It goes across the board. We've also got cricket this year. Tick those boxes in Dubai. But this, everyone thinks it's about what you're doing. It's actually no, because you're raising the profile. And the big thing is that it gives me my chance to give back properly, structured. And Barefoot Project's linked with 4 or 5 schools where we can help children understand that they're not entitled. They've got to learn about giving back first. And it's just grown. I've gone from charity to CIC. 7 on the board. Amazing people. So doers, not doubters, which is a big thing for me. And as you know yourself, there are a lot of challenges sometimes to jump through hoops, and you have to get all that packaging together, and you might not be able to package one bit, but they can. And then you just go from there. That's what Barefoot is about. No website. We have to change that now, but it's on social media. Barefoot Project News, Barefoot Project itself on Facebook. But it's an opportunity for everybody else to create their own legacy.
And how can people get involved?
Just inbox all any of those pages, and we collect shoes in, hardware, parkour, basketball, football, full boot shoes for rugby. Fiji gets the hard court shoes and football boots. Kenya get a mixture. South Africa don't get any because they can do it internally. We help with all the girls. It's just all donations. So when people say, I've only got one shirt and I wear socks, trust me, that shirt will be used and it goes there. And then we always say the only people that benefit are the ones wearing it.
What a great place to end it. Danny, really, really appreciate you coming on, and lovely to see you again.
Mate, let's not leave it nearly 20 years, please.
No, promise.
18.
Shit, no, it's not that far. It's about 16, I'd say.
It's not far off 18.
Yeah, it's too long, mate.
That's in France.
Yeah.
Google.
Right. Thank you to Danny. Cheers to you lot. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.